Wall Street spends more than $50 billion every year trying to predict the future. But 2,000 years ago, a simple carpenter created the most powerful wealth strategy in history, and Wall Street does everything to make sure you never discover it. You don't need to be religious to apply this. This is about historical analysis of principles that shaped civilizations, not about faith. Regardless of your beliefs, these principles change the world and can change your wallet. Think I'm exaggerating. The principles this man taught, with no formal education, no wealth, no political power, created the most influential movement in human history. While Wall Street firms collapse every few decades, the organizational model Jesus created has been generating wealth and influence for 20 centuries. Today, you're going to discover why this carpenter understood wealth better than every billionaire on Forbes' list. And by the end of this video, you'll never look at money the same way again.
Let me paint you a picture that might feel painfully familiar. You wake up every morning worried about money. You work harder than your grandparents ever did, yet they built wealth while you build debt. You follow every financial guru, buy every course, download every app, but somehow you're always one paycheck away from disaster. Meanwhile, Wall Street promises you freedom through complexity. They sell you derivatives you don't understand, algorithms that trade faster than human thought, and investment strategies so sophisticated they require PhD mathematicians to explain them. And what's the result? 70% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. The average person retires broke. Financial anxiety has become the background noise of modern life. But 20 centuries ago, a carpenter's son who never owned property, never had a bank account, never even used money for most of his ministry, taught financial principles that created institutions worth trillions of dollars. His followers built hospitals, universities, and charitable organizations that have operated profitably for centuries. How is this possible? Because Jesus understood something that Wall Street deliberately obscures: the difference between having money and being enslaved by money. But what I'm about to show you will challenge everything you believe about wealth creation. Here's the quote that changes everything. Jesus said, "It is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven." For 2,000 years, people have interpreted this as a condemnation of wealth. They missed the point entirely. The problem was never the money, but the obsession with accumulating it. Those who only want to hoard never learn to multiply. Jesus wasn't condemning money. He was diagnosing the psychology that destroys people who pursue it wrong. He was warning about the mental trap that turns abundance into anxiety, success into slavery, financial achievement into spiritual poverty. This is the philosophical revolution that Wall Street fears. Because if you understood the difference between being rich and being wealthy, you'd stop funding their system of manufactured anxiety and endless consumption. Wall Street teaches you to accumulate for yourself, buy, hold, hoard, protect. Jesus taught the opposite: multiply for others, give, invest, create, share. The fundamental difference is this: Wall Street makes money from your fear. Jesus built wealth through value creation, and mathematically, value creation compounds faster than fear extraction ever could. If you're still watching, you're already thinking differently than 90% of people. But what comes next will shock you. Let me tell you about the most misunderstood financial advice in history: the parable of the talents. Most people think it's about spiritual gifts. It's actually the most sophisticated investment strategy ever recorded. Here's the story. A wealthy man gives his servants different amounts of money to manage. 2 servants invest their money and double their returns. The third servant, terrified of losing what he has, buries his money in the ground. When the master returns, he rewards the first two and condemns the third. Wall Street would tell you the third servant was being conservative, protecting principle, managing risk. Jesus called him wicked and lazy. Why? Because he confused preservation with stewardship. This is the psychological trap that keeps most people poor. They're so afraid of losing what they have that they never discover what they could create. They bury their talents in savings accounts that only serve to make banks richer, not them. They bury their potential in jobs that don't challenge them. But here's the insight that changes everything. The servants who multiplied their talents didn't just get financial rewards. They got more responsibility, more opportunity, more impact. The servant who buried his talent didn't just lose potential profits, he lost his position entirely. Jesus understood something that behavioral economists are just discovering. The riskiest thing you can do with money is try to keep it perfectly safe. The safest thing you can do is learn to multiply value for others. Companies that follow this philosophy don't just outperform the market. They become the market. Apple, Amazon, Google. They didn't succeed by taking value from customers. They succeeded by creating so much value that customers couldn't imagine life without them. And speaking of making sense, write down, are you already applying something like this in your own life? But here's where Wall Street does exactly the opposite. Now I'm going to teach you the most counterintuitive wealth-building strategy in human history. Jesus said, "Give, and it will be given to you." Most people think this is naive idealism. It's actually sophisticated network economics. When you give strategically, you're not losing resources. You're investing in social capital, and social capital compounds faster than financial capital ever could. Here's the specific strategy Jesus taught. When you help someone who cannot help you back, you create transformation, not transaction. The first builds temporary alliances. The second builds permanent loyalty. Warren Buffett understands this. He's pledged to give away 99% of his wealth while he's alive. And the more he gives, the more influence he gains, the more his remaining wealth grows. His generosity didn't diminish his power. It multiplied it exponentially. Tony Robbins built a billion-dollar empire by starting with free seminars. Oprah Winfrey turned strategic philanthropy into the most trusted personal brand in America. This isn't accident. It's the law of reciprocity, applied at maximum scale. When you solve problems for people who can't pay you, they don't forget. They tell everyone they know. They become your unpaid marketing team. But here's the key. Jesus wasn't teaching random acts of kindness. He was teaching calculated generosity, strategic giving. The goal isn't to be nice. The goal is to be useful. And useful people never lack opportunities. Wall Street teaches you to extract maximum value from every relationship. Jesus taught you to give maximum value to every relationship. Extraction is finite. Creation is infinite. Put value first. If this insight is changing your mind about business and relationships, and if you think this sounds too good to be true, wait until you see the portfolio strategy that beats every hedge fund. Here's the investment advice that will make you rethink your entire portfolio. Jesus said, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and rust destroy, but store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and rust do not destroy." Most people think this is about the afterlife. It's actually about asset allocation. Here, treasures in heaven is ancient code for investing in people, ideas, and reputation. Things that neither inflation, nor thieves, nor crises can take away from you. Let me show you Jesus's investment portfolio. He had 0 real estate, 0 stock certificates, 0 gold. But he accumulated 3 types of capital that proved more valuable than anything Wall Street offers. First, human capital. Jesus invested everything in 12 people. When he died, those 12 people had become so valuable that they changed the course of human civilization. Second, intellectual capital. Jesus created ideas so powerful that they've been studied and applied for 20 centuries. Third, social capital. Jesus built a reputation so strong that mentioning his name still opens doors 2,000 years later. Skills, reputation, and connections. 3 assets that no government, thief, or crisis can take from you. Compare this to traditional investing. You buy stocks, they fluctuate with market sentiment. You buy real estate, it depreciates with time. You buy gold, it sits in a vault generating nothing, while inflation eats your purchasing power. But when you invest in developing skills, building relationships, and creating value for others, those assets don't just appreciate, they compound. Better skills lead to better opportunities. Stronger relationships lead to more opportunities. Here's the practical application. Before you buy anything, ask yourself, will this make me more valuable to other people or just more comfortable? If it's just comfort, it's probably a depreciating asset. Jesus understood that in a connected world, your value to others is your most liquid asset. And unlike money, the ability to create value only increases with time. Who are you going to tag in this video? Someone who needs to hear that their skills and relationships are their real wealth. Send it to them now. But there's a psychological secret that makes all this possible. Now I want to share the psychological strategy that Jesus used to make better financial decisions than every Wall Street analyst combined. He said, "Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about itself." Most people misunderstand this completely. Jesus was actually teaching the psychology of peak performance, because anxiety about the future destroys your ability to make good decisions in the present. Let me prove this with data. Day traders who are obsessed with minute-by-minute market movements lose money 90% of the time. Long-term investors who ignore daily volatility beat the market consistently. Jesus understood that financial anxiety creates temporal discounting. When you're anxious about money, your brain overvalues immediate rewards and undervalues long-term benefits. Think about the last time you were really worried about money. Did you make better decisions or worse decisions? Anxiety narrows your vision just when you need to see the bigger picture. This is why people living in financial desperation buy lottery tickets while wealthy people buy assets. Those in desperation are so focused on immediate pain that they grasp at fantasies. Wealthy people are calm enough to see real opportunities. Jesus taught his followers to replace financial anxiety with financial confidence. Not blind faith, but evidence-based confidence in their ability to create value. The practical application is profound. Before making any financial decision, ask yourself, am I choosing this from fear or confidence? Fear-based decisions optimize for short-term relief. Confidence-based decisions optimize for long-term growth. Jesus modeled this perfectly. He turned down opportunities that would have made him immediately wealthy because they conflicted with his long-term mission. This doesn't mean being passive. It means being strategic. It means making decisions based on what will matter in 20 years, not what feels urgent today. Right here, what's the biggest money mistake you're making right now? Fear-based or confidence-based decisions. If you've made it this far, you're among the 10% who think differently about money. But the final piece will blow your mind. Here's the business model that Jesus created that no MBA program will ever teach you. He built the first ethical multi-level organization in human history, and it's still generating wealth and influence 20 centuries later. Think about the structure. Jesus recruited 12 core team members. Each recruited others. Within a few generations, this network had spread across the entire known world. No advertising budget, no marketing department, no corporate headquarters. But here's what made it different from modern network marketing. There was no product to sell except value itself. The more you gave away, the more valuable you became. Jesus established 4 organizational principles. First, servant leadership. The leader exists to serve the team, not the other way around. Companies with servant leaders have higher satisfaction, lower turnover, and better financial performance. Second, shared vision. Everyone worked toward the same ultimate goal. Not just individual success, but collective transformation. Third, organic growth. Instead of forcing expansion through aggressive marketing, Jesus focused on creating such valuable experiences that people naturally wanted to share them. Fourth, infinite sustainability. The organization wasn't dependent on Jesus's personal presence. He trained his team so well that they could train others, creating a self-perpetuating system. This is the opposite of most modern businesses, which collapse when the founder leaves. Jesus built an anti-fragile organization that got stronger through challenges. The practical lesson is profound. Instead of asking, "How can I make more money?" ask, "How can I create so much value that money flows naturally to me?" When your success depends on others' success, everyone wins. Quick reality check. Can you see how this applies to your own career or business? Put multiplication mindset if you're connecting the dots. So here we are. You came to this video thinking you'd learn about an ancient figure. Instead, you discovered the most sophisticated financial strategist in human history. But knowing this changes nothing. The only thing that matters now is what you do with this knowledge. Right now, you have a choice. You can go back to the Wall Street way of thinking. Chase money, accumulate for yourself, optimize for short-term gains. Or you can adopt the Jesus strategy. Focus on multiplication instead of accumulation. Practice strategic generosity. Build assets that appreciate over time. Replace financial anxiety with financial confidence. Here's the question that will determine your financial future. Are you trying to get rich, or are you trying to become wealthy? Because rich is having money. Wealthy is having money that works for you. Relationships that open unexpected doors. Skills that create unlimited opportunities. Wall Street asks, "How much can you gain?" Jesus asks, "How much value can you create?" The first leads to temporary success and permanent anxiety. The second leads to sustainable wealth and lasting peace. These principles have been tested for 20 centuries. They've survived every economic crisis, every market crash, every technological revolution. But they only work if you work them. If you stayed until here, you're already among the minority that goes beyond the obvious. Maybe nobody taught you this before, but you can be the turning point for your family, your circle, your future. So here's my challenge for you. For the next 30 days, choose one principle from this strategy and apply it ruthlessly. Maybe it's the multiplication mindset. Maybe it's strategic generosity. Maybe it's investing in appreciating assets instead of depreciating luxuries. Come back here and tell me what happened. Drop a comment below and share which principle challenged you the most, which insight hit you the hardest, which strategy are you going to implement first. Share this video with that friend who's always looking for a financial shortcut, or with someone who needs to think differently to prosper. Take a screenshot and share this in your stories or WhatsApp group. Let's see how many lives we can impact together. And most importantly, which principle are you most excited to test? Comment below and let's learn together. If this video shifted something fundamental in how you think about wealth, hit that like button. Subscribe for more wisdom that the financial system doesn't want you to discover. If you enjoyed this, the next video is going to blow your mind even more. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Because here's the truth they're afraid you'll learn. Before you can have wealth, you must be wealthy in mind.
And wealthy minds don't just accumulate money. They create value that transforms the world.
The choice is yours. Wall Street's way or Jesus's way. Temporary riches or permanent wealth. Fear-based accumulation or value-based multiplication. Choose wisely. Your future depends on it.